The complaint was folded beneath the brass watering can on my kitchen counter, exactly where Daniel left bills he expected me to handle. I saw the return address, Hawthorne Glass Condominium Association, but before I could pick it up, a woman laughed in my sunroom. Not a nervous laugh, a settled-in laugh. I turned toward the glass doors and found two strangers sitting beneath my lemon print curtains, holding fabric swatches across their knees. Daniel's sister, Vanessa, stood beside my drafting table in cream trousers and a headset, telling them the Southern exposure was part of the showroom experience. My work bag was still on my shoulder. 4 silver letters had been pressed onto the glass. Vane Interiors. Daniel came out of the bedroom carrying a tray of sparkling water. He saw my face and stopped. "Okay," he said softly. Before you react, he had promised our condo would stay ours. So why had he helped his sister move clients into it while I was at work? One of the strangers glanced toward us. Vanessa followed her gaze, then brightened as if I had arrived for an appointment. "Mara. Perfect timing." She came through the doors and lowered her voice. "These are the Bellamys. They're doing that loft conversion I told you about." She had never told me about a loft conversion. Daniel held out the tray. "Water?" I stared at him. "I was asking them," he said. The Bellamys studied their swatches with the fierce concentration of people, pretending not to hear an argument. The woman wore a camel coat and had tucked her purse beneath the chair where I drank coffee every morning. Her husband was leaning back against one of my framed botanical prints, a 19th century fern I had spent 2 weekends cleaning and mounting. My drafting table had been folded down and shoved against the far wall. The flat archival boxes beneath it were stacked beside the balcony door. My father's wooden plant stand was wedged behind a rolling rack of curtain samples. One leg caught on the rug and lifted off the floor. Vanessa touched my elbow. "Could you give us 20 minutes?" I looked at her hand until she removed it. "Where are my plants?" "They're safe," Daniel said quickly. That was when I saw them outside on the balcony, leaves pressing against the glass. The temperature had been dropping all afternoon. I put my bag down. "Mara," Daniel said. I walked past him, opened the sunroom doors, and smiled at the Bellamys. "I'm sorry to interrupt. I need to bring those plants inside before the cold damages them." "Oh." The woman looked toward the balcony. "Of course." Vanessa's smile stayed in place, but the edges hardened. "They're fine for a few minutes." "The orchids aren't." "The orchids," she repeated, like I had named a demanding third client. I crossed the room, squeezing between the sample rack and my reading chair. The green glass prism that usually hung in the center window was gone. A clear suction hook remained, holding nothing. I stopped. "Where's the prism?" Daniel set the tray on the sill. I put it away. "Where?" "Somewhere safe." "Daniel." "In the hall closet, I think." "You think?" Vanessa turned to the Bellamys. "This is the reality of working in a living space. Everyone has their treasures." The woman gave me a sympathetic smile that made everything worse. I slid open the balcony door. Cold air pushed into the room, lifting the corners of Vanessa's sketches. I carried in the orchids first, then the pothos, then the little pot of rosemary Daniel was always forgetting to water and always tearing sprigs from when he cooked. He watched me make 5 trips. He did not help. When the last plant was inside, I picked up my work bag and went to the bedroom. Daniel followed. "Can we keep our voices down?" he asked as he closed the door. I stared at him. "You gave my sunroom to your sister." "I didn't give it to her." "There's a sign on the door. It's removable vinyl." "That is your defense?" "It's temporary." I unbuttoned my coat with fingers that had started to shake. All afternoon, I had been in meetings about converting 3 medical offices into a shared outpatient clinic. I had spent 6 hours discussing who could use which rooms, where confidential conversations could happen, how many bodies could pass through a corridor without violating fire code. At no point had it occurred to me that I would come home and discover that the same questions had been answered for my own home without me. How temporary. Daniel rubbed the back of his neck. Vanessa has appointments booked for a few weeks. A few weeks. Just until she sorts something out. What happened to her studio? She and Paula had a disagreement. About? Rent, clients. I don't know all the details. You knew enough to move my furniture. His eyes flicked toward the door. Could we please not do this while they're here? You invited them here. Vanessa invited them. And how did Vanessa get in? Silence moved across his face before he could arrange it. I opened the bedroom door. Mara, wait. I went to the entryway and checked the ceramic bowl where we kept the spare keys. Mine was there. Daniel's backup was there. The key with the blue rubber cap, the one I had given his mother after I found myself in urgent care with a kidney stone, and Daniel was 3 states away at a trade show, was missing. I turned. Your mother let them in. She helped with the delivery. What delivery? Vanessa opened the sunroom door. Could you two take this somewhere else? I almost admired the nerve of asking me to leave my own bedroom more quietly. The Bellamys were standing now. The husband had one hand on the curtain rack, comparing a gray panel to the light coming through my windows. I said, "This meeting is over." Vanessa's mouth dropped open. The woman in the camel coat looked between us. "We can reschedule." "No, you don't have to," Vanessa said. "Mara's had a long day." "Yes," I said, "and I've come home to a business operating in my condo. I'm sorry you were put in this position." The husband released the fabric. Vanessa's face went white, then pink. "Could I speak to you in the kitchen?" "No." "Mara, the concierge will validate your parking," I told the Bellamys, though I knew perfectly well our concierge did not validate anything. "You can take the samples with you." The woman picked up 2 books. Her husband reached for the rolling rack. "That stays," Vanessa said. He looked relieved to let go. They left with a series of small, polite noises. Daniel held the front door, apologizing in a low voice. The woman told him it was fine in the tone people use when it has become interesting enough that it is, in fact, fine. Vanessa waited until the elevator doors closed. "What is wrong with you?" Daniel shut our door. "Vanessa." "No, I want to know. I had one chance to land that project. You chose to bring them into my home." "Our home," Daniel said. The correction came automatically. That hurt more than if he had planned it. I looked at him. "You don't get to use our only when you want to give something away." His expression tightened. "Nobody gave anything away." Vanessa planted both hands on the kitchen island. "I needed a professional place to meet clients. You have a gorgeous room sitting empty all day." "It isn't empty. You know what I mean. I use it every morning. I restore prints there. I read there. I keep things that matter to me there." "For God's sake, I'm not burning your things." "Where's the prism?" Daniel sighed. "Mara, where is it?" He went to the hall closet, moved 2 coats, and reached onto the upper shelf. When he turned, the prism was dangling from one finger by its faded green ribbon. My throat closed. "Don't hold it like that." He caught it in his palm. "I'm holding it." "Give it to me." His irritation shifted into caution. He knew the story. My father had bought the prism at an estate sale and hung it in every apartment he lived in, including the cramped last one where I had packed his groceries into a refrigerator that hummed all night. After he died, I hung it in the sunroom. Daniel used to sit at the table and move his coffee cup into the bands of colored light. He placed it in my hand. "You could have told me," I said. "I wanted to, but you've been buried at work and Vanessa needed an answer. So you gave her mine." "She needed a room, Mara. You needed to be consulted. I weighed the urgency." Vanessa looked down at the island. Even she seemed to hear it. I wrapped the ribbon around my fingers. "How many appointments?" 3, she said. Daniel looked at her. "What?" I asked. 3 this week. This week. Then a couple next week? How many are booked altogether? Vanessa crossed her arms. I'm not discussing my client calendar while you're acting like this. Like what? Possessive. The word landed with a strange precision, not angry, not embarrassed. Possessive, as though ownership itself had become a character flaw the moment it inconvenienced her. Daniel stepped between us without quite facing either of us. We can work out a schedule. No. You haven't even heard. No clients here. No sign. No deliveries. Put the room back. Vanessa laughed once. You cannot be serious. I'm completely serious. Daniel's shoulders lowered, and for one hopeful second, I thought he was about to tell his sister that I was right. Instead, he said, "This is selfish." The apartment went still. Vanessa watched me carefully now. She had wanted backup. She had not expected him to use a knife. I looked at the man I was supposed to marry in 9 weeks. The man whose clothes filled half my closet, whose coffee grinder woke me at 6:30, whose name I had added to the resident directory because he said being listed as guest made him feel temporary. "Say that again," I said. He exhaled. "You're making a family emergency about a room." "What's the emergency?" "My business is the emergency," Vanessa said. "No, an emergency is a pipe bursting, an ambulance, smoke coming under a door. You lost your studio." "I did not lose it." "Then what happened?" She glanced at Daniel. That glance told me the disagreement over rent was not a detail he had failed to learn. It was a detail they had agreed not to give me. Daniel stepped closer. "Can we lower the temperature here?" "Your mother used my emergency key to move a business into my condo." "Our condo. Is it?" His face changed. I hadn't meant it as a threat. The question simply came out, and once it existed between us, I could not pull it back. Vanessa grabbed her purse. "I'm leaving before she calls security." "Take your sign," I said. "I'll get it tomorrow." "Take it now." She stared at me, then stalked to the sunroom. The first silver letter tore down the middle when she peeled it from the glass. "Great," she said. "Cheap vinyl. Another thing I get to replace." She crumpled the ruined V in her fist, collected the remaining letters, and shoved them into her bag. Daniel helped her carry the fabric books to the hall. Neither of them touched the rolling rack. At the door, Vanessa turned to him. "Call Mom." "I will." "Not talk to Mara, not fix this. Call Mom." Then she left. Daniel stood with his hand on the knob. "You embarrassed her in front of clients," he said. I laughed because the alternative was worse. She moved them in while I was at work. She was put in a terrible position. By whom? He looked at me, but he did not answer. The brass watering can caught my eye. My father had hated decorative objects pretending to be useful. He bought that can because it had a narrow spout that could reach beneath thick leaves without spilling soil across the sill. Daniel had set the complaint under it so neatly that only the board's green letterhead showed. I picked up the envelope. "What is this?" He turned too quickly. "I was going to tell you about that." "When?" "Tonight." "Before or after you called your mother?" "Mara, it's probably nothing." The envelope had already been opened. My name was printed beneath unit owner in bold capitals. Daniel's was nowhere on it. I unfolded the notice. Repeated commercial visitors, unregistered building access, loading bay obstruction, possible violation of residential use provisions, written response required. There were dates, 6 dates. The first was 11 days earlier. I read them twice, then looked through the glass doors at the room I had supposedly surrendered that afternoon. How long has she been bringing clients here? Daniel leaned back against the counter. It wasn't supposed to become a whole thing. How long? 2 weeks, maybe. I thought of the rosemary drying faster than usual, a coffee ring I had wiped from the sunroom sill, the chair angled toward the window when I was certain I had left it facing the table, ordinary evidence I had corrected without understanding. "You did this while I was at work." She needed help. "You lied to me every night for 2 weeks." I didn't lie. You let me sit in that room and talk to you about our wedding while your sister was using it as an office behind my back." His eyes sharpened. "That's dramatic." I folded the notice along its original crease. Daniel watched my hands. "What are you doing?" I slid the paper into my work bag. "Mara." I picked up the green prism and carried it into the sunroom. The late sunlight was too weak to throw color now. I rehung it from the empty hook, straightened the ribbon, and closed the glass doors between us. Through them, I saw Daniel take out his phone. He called his mother. His voice came through the glass in soft, controlled pieces. "No, she's upset." A pause. "I know." Another pause. "No, Mom, don't come over." I lowered the blind. That was the first thing I restored in the sunroom, not the drafting table or my father's plant stand. Privacy. The rolling rack occupied the middle of the floor like a surrendered weapon. 3 shallow plastic bins were tucked behind my reading chair, each labeled with a client's last name. I opened the top one. Tile samples, paint cards, invoices. The second held brass cabinet pulls wrapped in tissue. Inside the third, beneath a stack of catalogs, was a box of Vanessa's business cards. The address printed below her name was mine. I carried one into the kitchen. Daniel was still on the phone. He turned his back when he saw it. "I'll call you tomorrow," he said, then hung up. I told her not to come. "Vanessa is using our address on her business cards." He pinched the bridge of his nose. "She probably had a short run printed." "Daniel, I don't know." "How can you not know? You helped set everything up." I helped move a table and some samples. I didn't conduct an audit. I placed the card on the counter beside the watering can. "The board has dates going back 11 days. "I understand that." "You told me Vanessa moved in today." "I said today was the first serious meeting." "No, you didn't." "And what does that mean? Were the others unserious clients?" "They were consultations." I waited for him to hear himself. He paced to the refrigerator, opened it, and stood looking inside. "Have you eaten?" "Do not offer me leftovers. There's pasta." "I know what's in my refrigerator. Everything is my tonight." He shut the door harder than necessary. My room, my furniture, my condo, my refrigerator, my consent. The anger left his face so abruptly it looked like fatigue. He rested both palms on the island. "I was trying to help my sister." "You were trying to avoid asking me." "Because I knew you'd say no. So you do understand consent. You just prefer forgiveness." He looked at the sunroom doors, then at the ring on my hand. "You make me sound calculated." "You calculated when I'd be at work." "That was Mom's idea." There it was, not denial, but distribution. He slept on the couch. I knew because at 2 a.m. I found him sitting upright under the gray throw, lit by his phone. He turned the screen over when I came for water. "Vanessa?" I asked. "Mom?" I poured a glass. "She's worried this is becoming bigger than it needs to be. Your mother's emergency key opened my front door for a furniture delivery. Our front door." You keep correcting the noun and ignoring the verb. "Mara, I'm exhausted." "So am I." He watched me drink. "Are we really going to let a room do this?" I set the glass in the sink. The room didn't do anything. Back in bed, I heard the quiet burr of his voice resume. At 6:30, his coffee grinder woke me. He came into the bedroom carrying my mug, the blue one with the chipped handle. It was an old habit from the years before we lived together, when he stayed over and tried to make himself useful in a kitchen where he could never remember which cabinet held the filters. "Peace offering," he said. I sat up but did not take it. "Did you tell your mother to return the key?" I asked her. "What did she say?" "That she'd bring it by." "When?" "She has an appointment near here this afternoon. She shouldn't need another reason to return it. I'm handling it." He placed the mug on my nightstand. His left sock was inside out. The small familiarity of it nearly undid me. "I'm sorry I called you selfish," he said. I looked up. It was unfair. "Do you believe it?" "No." "Did you believe it last night?" He sat on the edge of the bed. "Last night was tense." That isn't an answer. He rubbed his thumb across his bare ring finger, where his wedding band was supposed to go in 9 weeks. I think you can be rigid when something disrupts the picture in your head, but I don't think you're selfish. There was enough honesty in it to hurt and enough evasion to make honesty useless. What picture? The way the condo should look? The way our schedule should work? The exact way we save for the wedding? You agreed to those things. Yes, because I love you. That doesn't mean every agreement becomes constitutional law. I moved the coffee farther from the edge of the nightstand. Tell Vanessa to collect everything tonight. You can be here while she does it. I have dinner with Nolan. Cancel it. That's a supplier dinner. It's work. So is moving a commercial showroom out of a residential condo after a board complaint. He stood. I'll call her. By the time I left, the coffee was cold. At work, I drew 3 versions of the same corridor and deleted all 3. My colleague Priya rolled her chair into my cubicle with a protein bar between her teeth. You just put a wall through radiology. I stared at the screen. Bold, she said. Patients enter one way and emerge molecularly rearranged. I fixed the line. Priya removed the protein bar. Bad morning. Bad floor plan. You love bad floor plans. They give you someone to defeat. My future sister-in-law opened an interior design business in my sunroom. She blinked. I'm sorry, I need at least 2 more verbs. I laughed before I could stop myself. That was the mercy of telling Priya. She did not know the correct response, so she gave me an honest one. I showed her the business card. Is this your home address? Yes. Did you know? No. Her expression settled. That isn't quirky. No. What are you going to do? The board notice rested inside my bag, heavy as a tool. I'm going to a meeting. The property manager, Celia Park, had offered me a slot at 4:15. Her office was off the lobby, behind a frosted door I had passed hundreds of times without wondering what happened inside. A framed aerial photograph of the building hung above her desk. From that height, every balcony looked identical. Celia wore narrow red glasses and had already printed a folder. Ms. Ellison, thank you for coming promptly. Of course. Is Mr. Mercer joining us? No. Her eyes moved to the ownership line on the paperwork. All right. I hated the small relief I felt. I told her the truth in the least flattering version. My fiancé had allowed his sister to use the sunroom for client meetings. His mother had used an emergency fob to assist with access. I had learned about it the previous evening. I had ended it. Celia listened without making the sympathetic noises that would have caused me to cry. How many meetings occurred? I was told 3 this week and a couple next week. The notice lists 6 earlier entries, so I don't know. She opened the folder. The security log showed Lorraine's fob entering the building on 4 weekdays between 10 and 3. Vanessa's clients had been signed in under different unit descriptions: personal guest, decorator, delivery consultation. 2 had bypassed the desk after someone remotely released the lobby door. Celia placed a printed screenshot in front of me. Vane Interiors offered private residential showroom consultations by appointment. Beneath that was my full address and a photograph of my sunroom. My green prism hung in the window. The date on the cached page was 3 weeks earlier. I touched the corner of the photograph. Can I have a copy? I'll include it in the compliance packet. Who complained? I can't disclose individual names. Was it one person? More than one. I thought of neighbors riding the elevator with strangers carrying tile cases, wondering what I had invited into their building. I had served on the holiday decorating committee. I had argued for quieter hinges on the fire doors. Now my unit was an address people could select from a booking page. What happens next? The association's goal is compliance, not punishment. The loading bay obstruction and the propped fire door are our most immediate concerns. If business use stops, all non-resident materials are removed and access credentials are secured. I can recommend a 14-day cure period. After that, the committee will review. And if it doesn't stop? Fines begin under the schedule attached to your notice. Continued violations can affect amenity reservations and guest entry privileges. Our rooftop reservation, I said. Celia checked her screen. You have one in September, the night after our wedding. Her face remained professionally neutral. That reservation is currently active. I looked again at the photograph. Daniel had taken it on a bright morning. The angle was from the kitchen, wide enough to show the table and narrow enough to exclude the drying rack on the balcony. He had moved my coffee cup before taking it. I knew because it sat on the bookshelf, blurred at the edge. What do I need to sign? Celia gave me an acknowledgement and an access change form. I revoked Lorraine's fob. The emergency key was a separate problem. The building could deactivate electronics, not metal. Would you like Mr. Mercer's resident app permissions changed? She asked. My pen paused. Daniel used the app for packages, parking, the gym, elevator reservations. Removing him would not be compliance. It would be a decision about us. No, I said. Not today. On the elevator upstairs, I hated myself for feeling both cowardly and fair. Lorraine was standing outside my door. She held the blue-capped key in one hand and a white bakery box in the other. I brought almond cake, she said. We're going to talk like civilized women. I unlocked the door without answering. The rolling rack was still in the sunroom. Daniel's jacket was gone, which meant his supplier dinner had apparently survived the family emergency. Lorraine set the cake on the island and placed the key beside it. I want you to know, she said, I never would have used this if Daniel hadn't told me it was fine. He couldn't tell you that. He lives here. He doesn't own it. Her mouth tightened. Is that what you remind him when you argue? No, it's what I'm reminding you after you used an emergency key for a delivery. She needed help getting the rack upstairs. Then she should have rented a room with an elevator. Lorraine opened the cake box. The almond smell filled the kitchen, sweet and familiar. She brought that cake whenever someone graduated, got promoted, moved, apologized, or needed to be softened before receiving bad news. You've always been independent, she said. I respect that. You say it like a diagnosis. I'm trying to understand why sharing one bright, beautiful room with Vanessa feels so threatening to you. It doesn't threaten me. It was done behind my back, because Daniel knew you would make it difficult. I looked at her. Lorraine lifted one shoulder. He shouldn't have hidden it, but people hide things when honesty carries too high a price. Did you tell him to wait until I was at work? Her gaze moved to the sunroom. That was practical. Did you know about the business cards? I knew Vanessa needed a stable address. Did you know about the booking page? She showed me a mock-up. And Daniel? He took the photograph. Each answer arrived calmly, almost generously. Lorraine believed she was helping me understand a family project, as if the only problem had been my exclusion from the planning committee. I removed Vanessa's business card from my bag and placed it beside the key. You raised Daniel to think love means volunteering somebody else. That is a cruel thing to say. It may be. She closed the cake box. He has spent 2 years trying to feel at home here. I gave him a home. You gave him cabinet space. There's a difference. For the first time, she struck something true. The condo had been mine before Daniel. Most of the furniture was mine. The mortgage came from my account. Even when we chose things together, I tended to measure the wall before he finished imagining. Lorraine saw the hit and softened. He wants a life with you, she said, but he doesn't want to spend it requesting permission. Then he should not have moved into a property where decisions require 2 yeses. You mean your yes. I mean mine and his. He had his before I knew there was a question. The lock clicked. Vanessa entered carrying 2 flat boxes. She took 3 steps, saw Lorraine, and stopped. What are you doing here? Returning the key. Great. Could everyone save the tribunal until after I get my samples? You have 20 minutes, I said. Then I'm informing the board the business materials are gone. Vanessa set the boxes down. You reported me? The building reported my unit. The building doesn't care about your unit. One retired man with binoculars cares. Vanessa, Lorraine warned. What? We all know it's Mr. Henley. I didn't. More than one person, Celia had said. Vanessa disappeared into the sunroom. Lorraine followed to help. I watched them dismantle the showroom they had assembled with such confidence. Vanessa peeled labels from the bins. Lorraine wrapped cabinet pulls in tissue. They worked well together, passing objects without speaking. Daniel came home as Vanessa wheeled out the rack. He held the elevator for her. Lorraine carried the bakery box away, unopened. When the door closed, Daniel looked around the cleared room. "You got what you wanted. The board gave us 14 days to demonstrate compliance." His eyes narrowed. "You met with them?" "Yes." "Without me?" The notice was addressed to me. He dropped his keys into the ceramic bowl. "So that's how this is going to be. They have security logs, Daniel. They have Vanessa's booking page. They have the photo you took." He looked toward the window. "I can pay the fine," he said. "It hasn't been assessed. If it is, we'll use the wedding account and replace it." I studied him. "The wedding account? It's our money." I opened the banking app on my phone. For months, I had glanced only at the balance, pleased whenever it climbed. My automatic transfer landed every other Friday. Daniel's deposits had once arrived near the first of each month in rounded amounts. The last one was 4 months ago. I scrolled back, then forward again, as though money might appear if I approached it from a different direction. "Daniel." He saw the screen. His hand closed around the back of a kitchen chair. "What happened to your deposits?" "I can explain." The prism turned slowly in the darkening sunroom, catching no light at all. "Then explain." Daniel pulled out the chair but did not sit. "Vanessa was behind on the studio." "How far behind?" 2 months. "And you paid it, part of it. With what?" "My checking account." I turned the phone toward him. "Your part of the wedding account stopped 4 months ago." "I had to move things around." "You didn't move anything. You stopped contributing." "I was going to catch up." "When?" "After my commission." His commissions were always 1 month away. A shipment got delayed, a customer changed terms, a territory was reassigned. Daniel worked hard, but he built plans around money that had not arrived yet and treated whatever did arrive as rescue. "How much did you give Vanessa?" $3,800. I put the phone down carefully. Her studio rent was $1,900 a month? She had other expenses. "What other expenses?" He sat now. "A deposit with a vendor, printing. Paula locked her out of the software they shared. So, after paying $3,800, Vanessa still lost the studio. She didn't lose it. She walked away because Paula was trying to take her clients." "That sounds different from a disagreement about rent." "It was both." "And your mother?" His eyes moved. I felt something in me become very quiet. "What did you pay for your mother?" Her card got out from under her. "What does that mean?" "She had a balance." "How much?" $2,100. I looked at the blue mug he had brought me that morning. It was in the sink now, a brown crescent of coffee dried at the bottom. $6,000. It was my money. Yes, that surprised him. I continued. "You can spend your money however you want, but you cannot tell me we're saving together when I'm the only one doing it." "I am saving." "I had temporary family obligations." "You had secrets." "They would have paid me back." "Would have." "Will." "Did they know the money was supposed to go toward the wedding?" He stared at the tabletop. There were answers that changed depending on volume. In a calm voice, his silence meant yes. If I shouted, he could accuse me of assuming. I stayed calm. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because you would have wanted a spreadsheet and repayment dates and some formal conversation that made them feel like failures." "I would have wanted facts." "Exactly." He said it with such weary certainty that I nearly looked around for the other Mara, the impossible woman who had forced him into this. "You wanted the wedding at the courthouse," he said. "The account has more than enough." "Because I kept depositing money. You wanted the dinner upstairs. You chose the photographer. We chose them." "Did we?" The question echoed mine from the night before, but it was not the same. I had asked whether our home was truly ours. Daniel was asking whether he had been allowed preferences. Beneath the manipulation was a real grievance, and that made it harder to dismiss. "You wanted a band," I said. "You wanted the rooftop dinner instead of a restaurant because you said it would feel like bringing everyone home." "I did. You picked the menu. From the 3 options you approved, because the 4th cost twice as much." He laughed without humor. "There's always a reason. Yes, usually the reason is that numbers are real. And people aren't?" I walked into the sunroom before I said something that would reduce us to teams. The room looked larger without Vanessa's rack and bins. My drafting table was still folded against the wall. Pale rectangular marks on the floor showed where the plant stand used to be. The silver letters had left sticky shadows on the glass. AN Interiors with a torn edge where the V had been. Daniel stopped at the door. "I'm sorry about the deposits," he said. "I should have told you." I looked at his reflection in the glass. "I'll put the money back after my commission." "You keep trying to replace permission with money. What do you want from me? I want you to know why this happened." "I told you why. My sister was in trouble." "No, why you decided that meant I didn't get a choice." He leaned against the frame. "I don't know." It was the first useful thing he had said. For 4 days, we lived gently around the answer. Daniel moved the drafting table back beneath the windows. He put my father's plant stand in its old corner and tightened the loose leg without announcing it. He scraped at the vinyl residue with a razor blade until I stopped him because he was scratching the glass, then ordered the proper cleaner. He made dinner. He slept on the couch. He sent me the name of a couples counselor whose website said she specialized in boundaries and blended families. I wanted those gestures to be shallow. They weren't. Daniel knew how to care for things once he accepted they were broken. On Friday morning, light passed through the green prism and scattered across the botanical prints stacked on my table. Daniel stood in the doorway with 2 coffees. "Can I come in?" I nodded. He handed me the blue mug. "I spoke to Vanessa," he said. "She's looking at co-working studios." "Good. Mom is upset about the fob." She returned the key. "She feels like she's been categorized as a security risk. She used emergency access for a commercial delivery." "I know." He said it without arguing. I turned my mug inside a patch of green light. "I told her she needs to apologize," he added. "Did she?" "She said she needs time." I almost smiled. "Of course she does." Daniel sat across from me. "Can we still get married?" The bluntness knocked the humor away. "I don't know." His jaw tightened. "I'm not saying no," I said. "I'm saying I don't know. We have contracts." "I know. People have booked travel." "I know. Our appointment is 9 weeks away." "I know the date, Daniel." He rubbed his palms against his jeans. "I'm willing to do counseling. I'll replenish the account. I'll put everything in writing if that's what makes you feel safe." What would make me feel safe is not needing a document to stop you from giving away part of my home. Our home. He caught himself after saying it. I set down my coffee. "No," he said. "I'm not doing that. I hear it now." But the correction remained between us, alive and automatic. At lunchtime, Vanessa called me. "I need you to tell your concierge that the business issue is resolved. It is resolved if you stop bringing clients." I had 2 appointments already booked. Daniel said he was talking to the board. My grip tightened around the phone. "When did he say that?" "Wednesday. The day after I met with Celia. Did you bring them to the building?" "I tried. The desk wouldn't let them up." "Good. Good." Her voice cracked. "One of them flew in from Denver. You were told to remove your business. I was told you had a cure period." I stood so quickly my chair rolled into the cubicle wall. Priya glanced over. "Who told you that?" Another silence, another answer. Vanessa lowered her voice. "Daniel said the board gave you 2 weeks to negotiate." "They gave me 2 weeks to prove the business had stopped." "Well, that is not what he told me. Why would you trust him after he let you walk into that meeting with the Bellamys? Why would I think he'd lie to both of us?" It was the first time Vanessa put herself on my side of the sentence. She called again that evening. I let it ring once before answering. "The Denver client canceled," she said. "I'm sorry." "You don't sound sorry." "I'm sorry you lost the client. I'm not sorry the concierge enforced the rule." Fair enough. Her exhaustion made her sound unlike herself. "Paula didn't steal my clients," she said. "She wanted me to sign a new partnership agreement. I refused because she wanted final approval on expenses. So you left. I thought Daniel was helping me bridge the gap. He paid your rent." "I know. And other expenses. I know that now." I walked into the sunroom and closed the doors. Daniel was in the kitchen, stirring something on the stove. "Did you know the money came from what he was supposed to put in our wedding account?" "No." He said his quarter had been good. It had been average. I knew because I had listened to him complain about it while folding laundry. Vanessa exhaled. "I'm sending you something." My phone filled with screenshots. A family group thread excluded me. Lorraine had written that I would object initially, but Mara always settles once people are relying on her. Vanessa had asked whether I knew. Daniel had replied, "Leave her to me." Another exchange showed the photo of the sunroom. Vanessa asked if the old plant shelf should stay. Daniel wrote, "Move it. She treats that room like a dusty little museum." I sat in my reading chair. The last screenshot was from Wednesday. Vanessa, "Can I keep Friday? Denver is already booked." Daniel, "Yes." The board notice has a grace window. Mara is making it sound final because she wants the leverage. Vanessa, "Are you sure?" Daniel, "Trust me." From the kitchen, he called, "Do you want Parmesan on yours?" The domestic normalcy of it made my stomach turn. I did not confront him that night. Instead, I opened the rooftop contract. Canceling within 60 days meant losing half the deposit. The caterer's deadline was worse. The photographer kept the booking fee. Invitations had gone out. Lorraine was coordinating flowers and rental place settings through my resident account because she had offered, months ago, to take something off my plate. I made a list of cancellation costs. Then I made a list of reasons to stay. The second list embarrassed me. I deleted it, restored it from trash, and read it again. He made me laugh when I became severe. He remembered exactly how I liked the bed made. He had driven through an ice storm when my father was dying and sat beside me on the apartment floor after every chair had been claimed. He could admit fear if I waited long enough. He loved me. I loved him. Neither fact answered the question in front of us. Daniel began counseling alone after I said I was not ready to sit in a room and help him explain himself. For a week, he behaved like a man learning the edges of things. He asked before moving my mail. He showed me his bank statements and set up a transfer schedule. He told Lorraine she was no longer coordinating the rooftop dinner. Lorraine emailed the vendor instructions to me within an hour. Her message ended, "I hope you can separate your feelings about me from the commitments you've made to everyone else." I stared at that sentence longer than the rest. The final compliance inspection was scheduled for Monday at 5. Celia arrived with Arthur Bell, the board president, a quiet man who carried a clipboard and apologized for the inconvenience of entering my unit. Daniel had offered to be there. I told him I preferred to handle it. Celia checked the sunroom, the balcony, and the hall closet. Arthur confirmed the fire exit was clear. The vinyl shadows were finally gone from the glass. "It appears fully restored to residential use," Celia said. A key entered the front lock. The door opened before I could reach it. Lorraine stepped inside carrying 2 shopping bags filled with ivory place settings. She saw Celia. She saw Arthur's clipboard. Then she looked at me. "I thought you were still at work," she said. The blue-capped key was in her hand. Celia was the first to speak. "Mrs. Mercer, how did you enter the building?" Lorraine shifted the shopping bags against her hip. "The front desk knows me." Arthur looked at Celia. "The desk was instructed not to admit you without resident authorization," Celia said. "I had authorization." "From whom?" Lorraine's chin lifted. My son lives here. I held out my hand. Give me the key. She glanced at Arthur's clipboard. This is hardly the place for a family disagreement. You made a copy. Daniel thought it was prudent to have a backup. The blue-capped key was the backup, and now there are two. She said it as if multiplication proved good judgment. Put it in my hand. Mara, I brought these for your wedding dinner. I didn't ask you to. You hadn't ordered them, and the rental deadline is Thursday. These are only samples. She lifted one bag slightly, a pair of ivory plates knocked together inside. Celia touched her tablet. Mr. Mercer approved lobby entry through the resident app 4 minutes ago, the last permission I had left untouched. Lorraine looked relieved to have official confirmation. There, you see? Yes, I said. I see. I took out my phone and called Daniel. He answered on the second ring. Hey, come home. What happened? Your mother is here with the copied key you gave her. Silence. Mara, I can explain. Come home. I'm across town. Then start driving. I ended the call. Lorraine put the bags down. You've made your point. No, I thought I had. That was the problem. Arthur cleared his throat. Ms. Ellison, we can reschedule the inspection. Please don't. Mara, Lorraine said. I kept my eyes on Celia. The compliance notice required me to secure access credentials. Yes. I revoked Mrs. Mercer's fob and recovered the key I gave her. I did not know another key existed. I did not authorize her entry today. Please put that in the record. Lorraine's face hardened. You're reporting your future mother-in-law for delivering plates? I'm documenting that you entered my home with a copied key after I revoked your access. You're choosing your words very carefully. I should have started sooner. Celia entered something on her tablet. Lorraine reached for the bags. Fine, I'll take these back. The key first. For a second, I thought she might leave with it. Then she pulled the blue-capped copy from her palm and slapped it onto the island. The cap had a small white scratch along one side. The original key was still in the ceramic bowl where I had placed it after she returned it. 2 identical pieces of metal, each carrying a different version of permission. Arthur completed his inspection, while Lorraine stood rigidly in the kitchen. He verified that the sunroom was residential again, that the fire exit was clear, and that no samples or client materials remained. The business use portion appears cured, he said. The access matter will remain open pending review. Thank you. Lorraine gave a brittle laugh. Congratulations, Mara. You defeated the plates. Arthur closed his folder. Celia looked at me. Would you like to keep the rooftop reservation active? Lorraine turned sharply. Of course she would. The question hung there. Ordinary and administrative. A yes or no field in a scheduling system. 9 weeks of my life seemed to narrow around it. I could keep the reservation and postpone the wedding. I could keep the wedding and change the dinner. I could tell myself a copied key was only metal, that counseling needed time, that love deserved one more attempt. But Daniel had known the board was coming. He had known why I revoked Lorraine's access. He had helped return my room to me, then quietly reopened the door. No, I said, cancel it. Lorraine stared. Celia did not ask why. The cancellation fee is 50% of the deposit. I understand. This close to the date, the association will also retain the service charge. I understand. Lorraine stepped toward me. You do not make a decision like this to punish someone. I'm not punishing anyone. You're canceling your own wedding dinner in front of the condo board. The dinner isn't the only thing I'm canceling. Her face changed. I did not feel dramatic. I felt almost dull, as if my body had spent all its fear in advance. Daniel arrived 23 minutes later. Celia and Arthur had left. Lorraine was sitting at the island with the copied key in front of her. The place settings remained in their bags by the door. He came in breathing hard. What did you do? He asked me. I canceled the rooftop. His gaze snapped to his mother. Why did you bring the key? You gave it to me. You weren't supposed to use it today. Lorraine stood. You told me the inspection was at 5:30. I looked at Daniel. He shut his eyes. That was the unanswered question then, not whether he had known she might come. He had helped her time it. What was supposed to happen? I asked. He set his phone on the counter. Mom was dropping off samples. That's all. While I was gone. You were rejecting every option she sent. I told her she was no longer coordinating the dinner. She had already done the work. So you decided to sneak it back in. That's not what this was. What was it? He looked toward the sunroom, searching for a less dangerous version. I thought if you saw everything together, you might like it. Lorraine interrupted. She was determined not to like it. Mom, please. No, I am tired of being spoken about like I'm breaking into a stranger's apartment. My son lives here. We're planning his wedding. Vanessa used a room that sat empty most of the day. I returned the key you gave me, and Daniel made another because he agreed this entire reaction was excessive. Daniel's face went pale. I didn't say entire. Lorraine looked at him with something close to pity. You said she needed to calm down. He turned to me. That was before we talked. But you made the key after. I made it when she returned hers. I didn't want us to have no emergency backup. You could have told me. You had just revoked her access. Yes, you weren't in a place to discuss it. The old logic polished by repetition. He betrayed me because I might object to being betrayed. I slid my engagement ring off. It caught at the knuckle, and for one terrible moment, I had to twist it. Daniel watched the struggle without moving. When it came free, a pale indentation circled my finger. I placed the ring beside the copied key. The wedding is off. Lorraine inhaled. Daniel did not. He stared at the ring. You said you didn't know. I know now. Because of this? He pointed at the key. Because my mother brought plates? Because every time I close a door, you make her another key. His mouth tightened. That's a line. That isn't an answer. It is the answer. We're in counseling. You're in counseling. I'm trying, and you're trying to make me comfortable enough to stay. That isn't the same as changing what you protect. I protect us. No. You protect your family from the discomfort of hearing no. You protect yourself from having to say it. Then you ask me to absorb whatever gets through. Lorraine picked up her bags. Daniel, you can come home with me. This is my home. She looked at me, and we both understood before he did. I spoke quietly. I need you to move out. His eyes met mine. You're throwing me out tonight? No, I'm giving you 30 days to move your belongings. You can stay here during that time if we agree on separate rooms and you respect the access rules. I'll put it in writing. He laughed once, broken and disbelieving. Of course you will. I'm not going to pretend details don't matter because they make you feel judged. They make me feel like a tenant. I tried to make you my husband. Lorraine left without saying goodbye. The copied key remained on the counter. Daniel slept at her house that night. The next morning, I removed his resident app access, parking authorization, grocery account, and permission to use my storage locker. I emailed him before each change. I did not change the front lock while his belongings were still in the condo. I gave Celia his move-out date and arranged for him to enter through the desk if he came without me. He called after the parking notice reached him. You canceled my space. You aren't staying here. My car is still in the garage. You have until 6 tonight to move it. Celia waived the day fee. That was generous. Yes, you sound like a property manager. I'm trying to be clear. I loved you, Mara. The past tense landed, but I did not correct it. I love you too, I said. He went quiet. That's the worst part, I added. He moved out in stages, suits first, then kitchen equipment, then the boxes in the storage locker. He left the coffee grinder until the final day. During one trip, he found me at the drafting table cleaning foxed spots from a print of maidenhair ferns. Colored light from the prism crossed my wrist. He stood at the door. Can I come in? The question hurt more than all the times he had failed to ask it. Yes. He sat in the chair opposite me. His hair was damp from rain. "My counselor asked why I thought you could handle it," he said. "Handle what?" "Being angry, being disappointed. Mom falls apart if she thinks she's unwanted. Vanessa gets reckless when she's scared. You get organized." I set down the cotton swab. "So I kept giving you the things I thought you could survive," he said. "That isn't love." "I know." "I think you loved me." "I did. I do. But you counted my strength as permission." He nodded. For a minute, we watched a blue band of light move across the table. "I'm not asking you to change your mind," he said. "I just wanted to say it without trying to get something." "Thank you." He looked toward my father's plant stand. "The leg might loosen again. The screw is stripped. I'll replace it." He stood, then stopped beside the prism. He did not touch it. After he left, the condo sounded too large. I cried on the kitchen floor with my back against the cabinet and the coffee grinder sitting in its box by the door. Vanessa submitted a written statement to the board the following week. She accepted responsibility for the appointments, explained that Daniel had represented the use as approved, and provided her canceled booking records. The board assessed one fine for the loading bay and fire door violations, then closed the business use complaint. Vanessa asked to pay half. I told her the full amount. She sent the first installment with the note, 3 more on Fridays. Her new business card arrived in the mail a month later. Vane Interiors now had a suite number in a co-working building across town. The envelope contained no message. I texted her that the card looked good. She replied, "The rent is terrible and nobody's mother has a key." I laughed despite myself. Lorraine emailed twice. The first message accused me of reducing marriage to access permissions. The second asked me to reconsider before the courthouse date passed. I answered neither. Canceling the remaining wedding contracts cost less than Daniel had predicted and more than I wanted to lose. The non-refundable deposits had come from my transfers, so I absorbed them. I totaled Daniel's earlier contributions, transferred that amount back to him, and closed the wedding account. He returned the ring by insured mail after I told him to keep it until he decided what to do. I placed the unopened box in the hall closet, on the shelf where he had hidden the prism. The official closure letter from the board arrived on a Thursday. Celia confirmed that Lorraine's fob remained inactive, Daniel's residency entry had been removed, and my unit was in good standing. I folded the letter and set it beneath the brass watering can, not to hide it, just because that was where the whole thing had begun. The next morning, I carried my coffee into the sunroom. The lemon print curtains were open. My father's plant stand held the orchids and the rosemary, its repaired legs steady on the floor. The drafting table faced outward now, toward the city, instead of back into the condo. One empty chair remained across from mine. Sunlight passed through the green prism and laid a ribbon of color over its seat. For a while, I watched the light move. Then I turned my chair toward the window.